Hello everyone, and welcome back to Twitch Tales episode 7. Where did we leave off in episode 6? Well, let's find out. In a letter to your sisters. Minaki, Maya, I wish you were here. I'm seeing all sorts of interesting things. As you know, I set off from Zweden on a boat towards Portsend, and when I arrived, I met with Randy, the head of the guild here. He sent me off to map the forest, and after encountering some problems, I decided it was a little too dangerous for a single person to tackle alone. So I went back to tell Randy this, and he agreed. However, the king's grant that allowed for us to map the forest in the first place, it wouldn't stretch to hiring guards. So Randy asked that I head to the king and let him know that we need more funding. On top of that, while I was in the swamp, some swamp elves told me that there was a dragon that used to come down and hunt larger creatures like ogres and trolls, only it hadn't been seen for many months now. This is concerning news. We don't know whether it's moved on or died, and the king apparently requests that any sightings or rumours of dragons be reported to him. So I've headed to the capital to meet with King Damon. I would be lying to say that I'm not a little nervous. I've never met anyone royalty before. However, on the way to this capital, I met with a giant on the way, a hill giant, but it turned out it was only a young kid who was scared for his life. I think he was stealing farm animals to survive. The farmers were none too happy about this and chased him as a mob, but I managed to talk them down and convince them that he was only doing what he needed to do to survive, and if they look after him rather than fight him, he might even help them out. Become a guard for them and protect them against all of the other dangers of the world. After that, I continued on and entered the city. It's a magnificent thing that is walled with walls at least 40 foot high. Inside the city, there are several districts. I checked out the westmost district, I think they call it West Town, and there's lots of shops and places of worship, but I arrived seemingly on a Sinter day, and having lost track of days myself as I travelled, everywhere was shut. I bathed in a bathhouse and spent some time at a library, and I arranged an appointment with the guard on duty at the royal precinct. I'm going to see the king first thing at light tomorrow. I have to get up before dawn in order to get there in time. Wish me luck. That is where we're picking up today. So as you spend your night in the Golden Locks Inn, an inn that is not too expensive, not too cheap, just right. You head down first thing in the morning. I think you probably asked for the concierge, the tavern owner, to give you a wake-up call, because you can't rely on the cockerel crowing or the sunlight streaming through the window to wake you up. You ask somebody who's doing the night shift to come and knock on your door and wake you up. And as you wake up all bleary-eyed, like a bear coming out of hibernation, your hair all messed up, you manage to smooth yourself down as best you can. Suddenly the realism of the day starts to catch up with your sleepy brain, and you remember what day it is. You remember what's happening today. You head down to the dining hall of the Golden Locks, and you see that they have porridge for breakfast. If you want porridge, it is included in the price of your room. If you want a second bowl, you'd have to pay for it, but they're only a copper piece each bowl. So you have a bowl of porridge. I think it's up to you guys as the character whether you feel like you'd be too nervous to eat, or whether you'd be so nervous that you want to just wolf down several bowls to sort of calm your stomach. It's up to you. One bowl's good. All right. It's let's see, how good is it? It's above average. It's a decent bowl. It's a decent bowl of porridge. It's warm and it's filling and it's cheap. You finish your bowl of porridge. You make sure that you didn't spill any on yourself. With your dexterity at +4, you're dexterous enough to not slop it all down yourself, so no problems there. Getting up from the table and handing your bowl back to the bartender, as it were. You head out into the town. It's still dark and it's still cold. Let's see what the weather's like today from yesterday. It is drier than yesterday. It's still cold and there's still a lot of morning dew and fog hanging over the city, but you can make your way through the cobbled streets easily enough. Doesn't take you long to get all the way to the military gates, and once you get to the doors, the gates, the inner city gates between the West Town and the military precinct, you discover that within the city there are a couple of interior walls. The exterior gates of the city close at nightfall and reopen at daybreak. The interior gates between the military precinct and West City close an hour or two after nightfall and reopen just before dawn. Thankfully for you, because you didn't check with that. But thankfully for you, they reopen just before dawn, so you get to the inner city gates right as they're opening the gates up. Morning, bright and early, I see. You say, yeah, bright and early. You head on through the gates and into the military precinct, making your way through the town, using the gigantic spire as a landmark to orient yourself easily enough. It takes you only a few minutes to get to the inner city walls between the military precinct and the royal precinct. The royal precinct is not open to the public. So as you arrive, you speak to the guard on duty, you explain that you're here for an appointment for the audience with the king. He says, right you are, you're here very early, I like that, good punctuality. If you could just wait on over there for a moment, it'll be, and he looks up at the sky and he's like, another 20 minutes or so before we open up, but then we'll be opening up for the audience with the king. So you think, okay, cool, I'm here early, I'm not going to be late. You're good, you wait over where he told you to wait, and you wait for 5 minutes or so before another man walks up, a peasant-looking man. He's got relatively raggy clothes in, but you can tell that he's put an effort in to try and put on his best clothes possible, and he's very nervous. He gets told the same thing, just wait on over there. He looks over, he's nervous to see you, but he walks over and kind of stands about 30 feet from you, just kind of not sure how to hold himself. You see an older gentleman, probably in his human in his late 50s or so. He walks up and comes directly over to stand with you. It seems like he knows the deal. You see another woman, a younger human woman, come by. She steps up and stands here as well. At this point, the guards open the gate. The four of you get let in, just as another couple is starting to arrive as well. You realise that, it seems like the king's audience hours, his office hours essentially, are at particular times on a Fin-Day morning, and people are used to turning up. Make some chat as you're waiting. Hello. A couple of them kind of too nervous to ask. Another one just like engages in conversation. Hello, what are you here for? Just here to see the king, eh? Same as you, probably. Yeah. Here to see the king. Goddamn dragons. Pain in the ass. Dragons? Yeah, dragon ate my barn last night. Sorry? Dragon, a big dragon. Huge thing. Must have had iron for scales. Came down and landed on my farm and ate my barn. I'm going to make you an insight check while you talk to this guy. 14 plus your insight. You are proficient in insight, so that is a 3 proficiency, 3 wisdom. That is a dirty 20. With a dirty 20, you're getting the impression that this guy, who was really confident and came straight over to you guys because he knows the deal of like where to wait. He also has a story about dragons eating his barn. You get the impression that he is either delusional, or he's an attention seeker, or maybe he's grossly exaggerating his stories. Maybe this is just kind of like a hobby for him, to like he just likes to see the king. You're very much getting the impression that he's not fully on the level. You don't know a lot about dragons, but you are from a country that is run by dragons. There is the Ronajaya, the country you're from, is run by the Bayar. The Bayar is a 5-dragon council of ancient dragons. And from what you know of them, they are huge, but not big enough to eat a barn in a single bite. So, a bit odd. So you just kind of like make pleasant conversation with him as he really tries to engage you in this dragon ate my barn kind of story. Eventually you are let into the city, the royal precinct proper, and you thank the opportunity to stop talking to this guy. Maybe he's looking for payment to build a new barn. Yeah, he might be trying to get the king to pay for a new barn, something like that. It might be a very small barn. He might be telling the truth. He might genuinely be telling the truth, but it might be a man who cried wolf kind of a situation where he's been he's just not getting the attention that he feels he deserves. There's dragons and nobody's paying attention to me. Barn nuggies. Yeah, it's a chicken coop, and he's getting chicken nuggies from the chicken coop barn. However, anyway, you are taken through the royal precinct. You notice that it resembles in similar ways certain aspects of the military precinct that you've walked through, in that there are barracks and there are training grounds and there are places for the betterment of the military, but there are no weaponsmiths, no blacksmiths, no industrial element of the military precinct. It is just where a lot of the royal guard are located. You also notice, probably with your insight, and especially if you do any, if you stop for a moment to take it all in with predatory patience, you'll notice that the adornments and uniforms of the guards in the town of the royal precinct are subtly different to the ones of the Knights of Kavosna. The Knights of Kavosna tend to run the towns usually. They tend to be town guards. You've even got an element that's similar to the Knights of Kavosna back where you're from in Ranajaya, but it's called something different. But here, as you move from the military precinct into the royal precinct, you notice that these are the Royal Cross. They are not the royal. They are the king's own military, and they are more the military than the Knights of Kavosna are. Knights of Kavosna are more like the police, and these are more like the special SWAT team sort of area. And this entire precinct is housing the Royal Cross, or many of the Royal Cross. So you see subtle differences to their uniform shades and things like that. You make your way through the royal precinct towards the palace, and sure enough, you see on atop the hill. It doesn't take you long in the royal precinct to get sort of a gradual slope upwards towards this hill, towards the castle. Much like the bookshelves in the library that you went to yesterday in last episode. You'll notice that all of the streets of the royal precinct are sort of radially designed to point towards the hill at the other edge of the district. Massive hill on top of which is a walled castle. The same kind we saw as Apis when we fought Lucifreak. Yes, if you have been watching the Twitch Tales campaign with the B team, with Apis' story, the Royal Cross were the military that were sent to help fight Lucifreak, the Green Dragon. Okay, so you make your way up to Winchester Castle. As you're walking, the guard that is leading you is being led by another one at the followed by another one at the back. So you sort of being escorted through the city. He's not speaking to you. He's not explaining anything along the way. As you were told yesterday by the guard, you will be given a debriefing once you get into the antechambers. Once you get to the palace. You wind your way up a windy path up the hill, and turning around you can see a beautiful sight of the entire city. At this height you can see over the interior walls into the military district. You can see that smoke is starting to emerge from several buildings around the military precinct as the blacksmiths and the weaponsmiths and the farriers all start getting to work doing their things. You can even see a little bit beyond that now that the smoke isn't, it's early enough in the morning that the smoke isn't super thick yet because not everybody's started stoking their fires. So you can just about see through it into the west town on the other side of the city, and then beyond that even to the exterior regions around Windraven, and particularly the fields and farmlands. Leading you through the gates into the Winchester Palace, you notice that yes, it is much more of a palace than it is a castle. Think more Buckingham Palace, sort of a fortification. The outside walls are fortified like a proper fortress, like a castle, but once you get inside, it's evidence that while well defended, the city was well defended by its location, its moat, and its walls. The castle itself, if they're getting all the way to breaching the castle, then there's no need for it to be a massive fortress at that point. Everything's lost anyway. You enter into the front gates to the entire palace proper, and leading across a very manicured stone entrance way with a runner of magically cleansed and mended red carpet. You head up the porch, up the front steps to the palace, and into the main halls, where you see it is a beautiful, ornate, very opulent entranceway with tiled white and black mosaics on the ground that seems to be some sort of marble. There are pillars, columns off to either side, and a grand staircase up in front. You see that there are drapes hanging from the ceiling that must be at least 100 feet high. And the guard leading you in hands over to another guard on duty. You see that his, again, is very subtly different. With your insight and perception, you can tell that the guards that are part of the Royal Cross hand over to a... sorry, I got those the wrong way around. The Iron Cross is the name of the Royals, the military. The Iron Cross is the sort of wider military. He hands over, in the palace, he hands over to the Royal Cross. The Royal Cross are the more specified, specifically King's Guards. If they are if you think of the Iron Cross as something like the FBI or the CIA or even the military, you think of the Royal Cross as being more like the Secret Service. They're the ones that they're designed to protect the king and the palace. So he hands over to the Royal Cross, and you see like a very brief exchange before he waits in the hall for everybody to arrive, and then speaks and says, "If you'd like to follow me this way, we'll take you into an antechamber to prepare you for your meetings with the king. There is nothing to be nervous about. You're in good hands here." And he leads you off to the left-hand side as you walked in, and you head in through one of these large doors down a long corridor with beautiful windows that can see out into the front yard where you came in. Beautiful gilded windows. On the other side, there are reliefs and inlays. On the right-hand side of this corridor, there's reliefs and inlets of statues and suits of armour. I'm just going to make you a perception check. You're not proficient in perception, and you're certainly not stopping to do your predatory patience while you're on the move, so it's just going to be this plus 3. 16 plus 3. The 19 total, even on the move without proficiency in it. You notice that the plinths around where these suits of armour are standing in the inlets have some sort of arcane runes scratched into, well, not scratched into them, beautifully engraved into the plinths around the bases of these professional these suits of armor. I'm just going to give you, now that you've noticed them, I'm going to give you an Arcana check. That is 17. This dice is rolling really well today. With a 17 plus your Arcana, that is a +1. That is an 18 Arcana check. You notice that they are probably from the school of transmutation. And putting that 2 and 2 together, you think, oh, these suits of armour could probably be brought to some semblance of mobility or animation if needed. We may hyperventilate. Yes, it seems like protecting the palace in times of trouble might engage bringing these suits of armour to animation as well. He heads you all the way down this corridor and off to a drawing room off to the side. It's a beautiful big drawing room with a large oak table. There's a couple of portraits up of previous kings you can see. You're not proficient in... Oh, you are proficient in history? Oh, not of this world, though. So I'll give you a history check. It's going to be at disadvantage because it's not about this particular world that you're now. Let's go both of these. Disadvantage, history check. Hey, nat 20 on one of them, but with disadvantage 17. You guys are on fire today. With a 17 plus your history modifier plus the 1, so 4 onto that, 21. With a 21 history check, you do manage to remember and sort of remember some of the names of these kings for future use. You're sort of learning. This is more like a learning check than an actual recalling check. You are learning the history of some of these kings as you're sort of walking around. Everybody's filing in. You're looking at the portraits. You're looking at the various different things. You notice that each one says of House Winchester. And so that teaches you, yes, you know that King Damon is from the line of House Winchester. You see a certain resemblance among each of them as well, like a familial resemblance that is going to help you with recognizing anyone else who is royalty as well while here. And eventually enough people are filed into the room that the guard turns around and asks you to take a seat. The royal guard that meets you after you all take a seat at this long table, he introduces himself. He says, "Greetings. I am Oletrian Jushri. I am the head of..." I didn't actually give him a title. He would be head of communications, I think. "Greetings. I am Oletrian Jushri. I'm the head of communications for House Winchester. You will be tasked today with meeting the king and explaining your reason for being here. There are a few rules I wish to go over first. They are simple things to understand. If you have any questions, now is your time to ask them. Firstly, when taken into the king, one at a time, you will not speak until spoken to, and only then you will speak with your amplificator to your throat. He points down to a few, it's a small, shallow bowl, kind of like a fruit bowl of sorts, that's on the table in the centre. He points out to a shallow bowl, and in it are thin, like river stones, really smooth black stones. It says, each of you will take an amplificator, and a few people reach over. The guy that he was speaking about, the barn, the dragon eating the barn, he's used to this. He's been a lot of times before. He grabs it and he just kind of holds it. A couple of the others start reaching out and grabbing them as well. It says, you will speak only when spoken to, and only then when you with the amplificator to your throat. You will address him first as Your Majesty or Your Royal Highness, and after that you can address him as Sir. You will not show disrespect to him nor turn your back on him until we tell you it is okay to do so. You will agree to anything he suggests and accept anything he offers. You will not attempt magic without warning. If you attempt magic without warning, you will be executed on the spot without trial. Do not step beyond the indicated mark on the ground. Don't worry, we will point all of this out to you again as you enter the room. Of course, before you enter the room, you will be disarmed of your weaponry and any magical items. We will keep those safe for you in the antechamber that you enter before entering the royal hall, and you will get them back immediately upon exiting. If you have any magical inherent abilities, you must tell us before, so that we can be prepared. Are there any other questions? You take the thin, very smooth black stone. You turn it over a couple of times. You see that again. There's a couple of like transmutation runes on it. It looks very simple and very rudimentary magic. Agree to anything he suggests. I don't like that. Yeah, I figured that some of you might have a problem with that, but yes, that is something that has been told. Like, don't backtrack. Don't disagree. Agree to accept anything he offers you. If he offers you a drink, you accept. If he suggests you do something, you do it. You tentatively raise a paw. Yes, and he looks down at a noteboard. You can see that there's the back of a noteboard there, but you don't see any paper on it. It looks like he's just looking at a blank piece of board to you that he's holding in his hand. Glances down. Yes, Niwa Maruki. Say, pronounced Nifa, but that's okay. I was just wondering, I do have claws that I can't be disarmed of. It says, natural weapons are understood and accounted for. You will not be passing close enough to the king to become an issue. If we do disagree with something the king says, do we pretend to agree? You anticipate disagreeing with the word of King Damon? Everybody at the table kind of just turns towards you slowly. I don't anticipate it. I'm just saying if that is the case, am I understanding you right, that like we pretend to agree? I would suggest that you keep any dissension. I suggest that you keep any dissension to yourself. I do have a letter for the king. What do I do with that? You'll be able to hand that to the king indirectly once you're in there. We can agree without agreeing. Just have to be very careful with what we say, like a fae. I'm guessing if we disagree, keep it quiet. There's any other questions? You get a chance to look around the room with the other people that are in here now. You see that there's the gentleman who was making up stories, essentially, a human man. You see that there is a hobbit man, a halfling as it were, who's sitting at the table as well. He was specifically presented with a smaller chair. You can see that there are chairs of various different sizes around this table. They are accommodating of all different sizes and races. There is the human woman that you noticed. There is the very shy human man as well. You notice that there is the couple that was entering just after you, a male and female. But give me an insight check again. Let's see how you do. 5 plus your insight modifier of 6, that is going to be an 11. It's not the greatest roll, it's an average thing, but you notice that the couple sat away from each other when they came in. They sat on different sort of ends of the table. And then finally, the other person you notice in the room is someone that catches your eye as a little different looking. I don't know if you've ever met one before. Let's see. I'm going to roll you a history check, see if you know from appearance what species this person is. That is an 8. 8 plus your history of 6 is a 14. I don't think with a 14 you would have ever met one of these people before. He presents as male. He's got very dark skin that looks like it's made of rock. It looks like he's got a sheen to it, like a kind of not too dissimilar to the polished river stones in your hand. He's relatively short, and he looks like he's wearing clothing from a very different continent, a different style entirely, much more sort of Middle Eastern inspired clothing, if you think of silks and long sort of dress robes and such. It also looks like he's got sort of glass for hair, like a polished sort of volcanic glass. Mechanically speaking, this is an Earth Genasi, yes, but I don't think that Noodle has ever met one. This is the gentleman, the guard, the head of communications. He says, "Well, if there are no other questions, we'll be back in to get you one at a time. The order we bring you in is non-negotiable." And he leaves the room and with a sort of get acquainted. As you are left in the room with these other people who are here to request something of the king, what do you want to do? Do you just wait quietly to yourself, or do you make conversation? You can see that the gentleman who was very all about the dragon eating his barn has now turned to the halfling and has started telling him the story. You know, it's really ridiculous that the barn my barn was eaten in one gulp by a dragon. It almost took my prized horse as well, but I think it had enough feed with the barn and blah blah blah. You can see that the halfling isn't really paying attention to him, but is just kind of muttering and rolling his eyes at just like various things in the room, just kind of in a grumpy kind of a mood. Let's talk to the Genasi. You let's say you're sitting next to them. Why not? You turn and say, "Hi there. I'm Nifa Maruki, Noodle," and he says, "Hey, it's nice to meet you. I'm Spear," and he holds his hand out towards you. "Hey, lovely to meet you, Spear." "Yeah, I'm Spear. I don't think I've met someone like you before." Say, "Oh, I'm Ernivora. I'm from a different country. They don't have a lot of Ernivora here, I think." He says, "No, I'm from a different place as well. I'm Earth Genasi." "Oh, that's you're from a different plane." "That's right. Yeah, I'm from the plane of Earth." "Oh wow. What are you here for?" "I'm here to speak with the king. I'm a bit of a diplomat, I suppose." "You're on a diplomacy mission?" "Yeah, I work for someone powerful in the Earth plane, and I'm trying to set up connections with other powerful people here now. It's a very interesting place. It's taking me quite some time to get used to it." "Yeah, I imagine. It must be very different to the place that you're from." Yeah, very different. For one thing, I'm not used to the sky. This feels a little better for me." Pointing at the ceiling. They're like, "Oh yeah, I suppose. Is there no sky in the Earth plane?" "I mean, there is in the borders, yeah. So the elemental plane of chaos. If you're in the pure Earth, it's just rock and dirt and ground and earth and clay and ore and sand and all sorts of that stuff. But if you do dig far enough towards the plane of air, you do end up with getting a surface. Well, a surface of sorts. Depends which direction you go. I'm not going to bore you with the details. What are you here for?" "Oh, I'm here for delivering a letter, mostly. I'm a cartographer, I'm a mapper." "Oh, you make maps?" Yeah. "Are you any good?" "I mean, I think so." "All right. What are you doing here?" I was tasked with making a map of a certain area of the island, and it proved to be very difficult. There's a lot of dangers there, lots of monsters and such, and I needed royal guard." "Ah, you're asking for an increase to your funding." And at this point, Glenfield is his name, the hobbit who was kind of rolling his eyes and not really listening to Oliver, who was his name, just kind of like goes, "Hey, good luck getting the king to part with any more bloody money." Sorry, what was that? He said, "Good luck. You're trying to get more funding from the king, I overheard." Yeah, that's right. Bloody good luck. Why'd you say that? Well, raising all the bloody taxes and bleeding us dry. Bloody taxation's getting ridiculous. Is that why you're here? Yeah, I'm here to complain about the taxman's conduct when he came by my farm the other day, and at this point the door opens. And Alitrian walks in and says, we'll begin with Wensenfelder. And he is looking down to seemingly a blank board in his hand as well. We'll begin with Wensenfelder, if you would like to follow me this way. The human man of the couple stands and says, "Sir, I was wondering if I could be seen before my sister." And he goes, "Nope, Wensenfelder together. That's what the appointment was made for." And she comes up and says, "Yeah, see, I told you he wasn't going to see us separately. So stop trying to weasel your way into poisoning his mind before I." And the two of them bicker with each other as they leave the room after the guy. Apparently, they're brother and sister, not couple, and they're here disputing something. They leave and leave you alone for a little while. You continue the conversation. You heard that Glenfield shut up real quick when the door opened again. If I may ask, Spear, do you remember how you got to this place? Like how I don't know many places where the borders cross into the other plane. It's difficult. Sometimes borders are a little unclear, aren't they? Yeah, sometimes you're just in a deep cave and you think you're in the Prenethine, and then all of a sudden you're in the elemental plane of Earth, you know? Yeah, it can be a bit confusing, eh? You notice with your insight of +6, you notice that he didn't answer your question. He just kind of agreed that it's, it can be difficult. Sometimes you just find yourself in the other plane. Whether you want to pry and ask again and ask, dig into that a little deeper and be like, yeah, it can be difficult. Do you know how you got here? Or whether you want to kind of leave it, that's up to you. Money's on an inheritance dispute. You are 100% correct. It's not going to come up as important, so I'll tell you they are arguing over who owns the bar that was left to them in their father's will that was ambiguously worded. Don't pry, leave it, not pry. Yeah, you get the impression that he either purposefully evaded the question or he was hinting that he doesn't remember how he got here. But either way, didn't volunteer the information. Have you seen anything interesting in your journey? Yeah, actually, man. There's a reason they call it the Death Plains, I suppose. You've been to the Death Plains? Yeah, I mean the lesser Death Plains. They're only lesser in size, not lesser in lethality, I think. They're dangerous, but they are not to be underestimated. Why were you in the lesser Death Plains? Ambassador reasons. I'm not going to bore you with the details. Oh, you were ambassador to someone in the Death Plains? Not exactly. It was passing through. It doesn't matter, really. You know of the Death Plains, then, I take it? Well, I've heard of them, and just like their reputation, eh? Like they sound pretty dangerous. I'd think so, yeah. Did you head through any big cities? Yeah, came south through Starnhorn. Starnhorn's a lovely place. It was, I actually met one of my kind there. It's a little rarer, but yeah, I met another Earth Genasi. Wonderful guide, Honkus. She told me a little bit about the area. And why are you here to see the king? Mainly just to set up the connection, really, just to introduce him to the fact that I work for someone quite powerful back in the Earth plane, and should I get back there, I can make a connection, and it's always good to have powerful people knowing each other for the sake of staying out of each other's areas or resource trade, economy things. You get it. Honkus. Yeah. Honkus is the Earth Genasi character from one of my home games from several years ago now. Oh, your journey sounds exciting. Yeah, I'd love to hear more of your stories. Are you staying in the village after this? No, I gotta head out pretty quickly, pretty sharply. I've got things to do. At this point, the door opens again. A little time has passed. He asks in. Let's see. I think he would probably go with. I think he goes with Shannon. Says, we'll see Shannon next. The human woman stands up and is left out of the room. She, not that it's going to come up as important, but she is here to request a royal pardon for her husband who's in the cells for violent behaviour, and she's going to beg the king to let him go. You turn over to the halfling. I'm sorry, what was your name again? You said the taxes are too high here? This is on Glenfield. Yeah, taxes are getting too bloody ridiculous. I refused to pay them, and then they sent the taxman round to collect anyway. And then when I told that taxman what for, he started saying that he could repossess some of my possessions. They threatened about taking my cattle and stuff. And then when I shot at him, he retaliated, and it's heinous behaviour. I'm sorry, you shot at the taxman? Yeah, he was taking my cattle, or threatening to. Did he? Okay, what? Did you hit him? No, I just shot a warning shot. It was close to him. I was in the ground beside him. That's not... Okay. No, just to be clear, the violent behaviour was not against her. He was in the cells for violent behaviour in a drunken disorderly a month ago. Basically, the month before this, the celebration that starts every month, is like a pretty big rowdy event. Something happened during that celebration, and he ended up getting in a big street brawl, essentially, and he's been in jail for a month and a bit now. Or was it the start of this month? I forget. It might have been the start of this month. I can't imagine the taxman appreciates being shot at. No, I was hoping he'd bugger off and not come back and try and bleed me dry of all my bloody hard earnings. Yeah, alright. Kind of just an awkward silence falls over the group before eventually the door opens and he says, we'll see Glenfield next. Glenfield gets off his chair and hops off. Best of luck to you. Toddles out of the room. You see the shy guy who's just kind of like staring at his hands the whole time, and then the guy who's wanting attention about the dragons, and he turns to you guys and says, "Isn't this bloody ridiculous? A dragon's eaten my barn, and he's seeing these other people first who's got problems with taxes. What? Like he's not gonna. There's a dragon out there. Do you know there's a dragon out there that's flying around, massive, iron-scaled." Must have been the size of a city itself, and it landed on my farm. And there's still footprints. I could show you the footprints. They're pretty big, and they might have been washed away a little bit if it rains. But they're definitely dragon footprints. I can tell you that. Right. How big was this dragon? Eh? Oh, it's massive. It was a big old thing. It was a huge big dragon that was wings as it belted its wings. There was tornadoes drafting up. It blew away 3 of my cows. What? It blew them right away. All the way over the horizon they went. Right. What's your name? Oliver. Oliver is my name. What colour's the dragon? It was like a rusty silver. Now you are from a country that, as I say, is led by dragons, and you know very deeply that the metallic dragons, i.e. silver, are the good aligned dragons. The 5 council of dragons that runs your country are 5 metallic dragons, and if there's a silver dragon that's causing issues in eating barns, it doesn't really go against this. It doesn't go towards this guy having done his research and learning about how dragons actually act in order to back up his story. Is your farm nearby? Yeah, it's right on the other side of the city walls. Again, if the massive dragon had landed on his farm the other day right outside the city walls, probably not the smartest story that this guy's got. Oliver might need to see some psychiatric assistance. Either that or he's an attention seeker. I've got down here, Oliver just wants attention. Has made up a story about a dragon this time. He's here every single week. Every single week Oliver turns up to be like, I'm so lonely. I'm so lonely and I'm bored and I need attention, and he's a compulsive liar and he doesn't see people every day at his farm. He's like one of the only people who works his farm, and he's just so lonely. And this is one of his major interactions with other people. Those dragons of the Bayar? Correct. Yes. The character that we are playing is from Ronajaya. Destroyed the farm but didn't eat the cows. Yeah. He's not the smartest person at making up stories. Needs a buddy or someone to hang out with. Eventually, one at a time, little by little, the guy comes back in. He requests Rupert go in next. He then requests Oliver goes in, and then he requests Spear goes in, and you are left alone. Left alone in this room, you eventually just kind of wander around, look at the pictures on the walls, look at the massive fireplace and the different tongs and the different fire stokers that are used to stoke the fire with. Eventually, it's not long before you are called in. The door opens and he says, "Thank you for your patience. The king will see you now." You stand to your feet and you will follow this guy out of this waiting room and into an antechamber. There are 3 guards in there that take all of your weapons off of you. They ask you to essentially T-pose like at a TSA. They pat you down. And there's another one of them comes in with one of those TSA wand sort of things, but rather than run it over you directly, he just kind of from a distance runs it down your full length. Like this. It's basically casting a detect magic to see if there are any magic items on your person that you have yet to hand over. Asks you to turn around, does the same again. He asks you, are there any reasons why you would have weapons concealed on your person or magic concealed on your person without your knowledge? No, I don't think so, but obviously if it's not my knowledge, I wouldn't know. Have you been in contact with anyone who had anti-monarchy sentiments? No, I don't think so. Is there any reason why you would wish harm to the king or his family? No, absolutely not. Very well. Did you understand the rules as I read them to you in the antechamber? You will not speak until spoken to, and only then with the amplificator to your throat. Do you have an amplificator? You look down and you say, is this it? He says, yes. Have you used one before? No. You hold it to your voice box, and he picks one out of a bowl that's nearby. And he says, you pick one to your voice box, and it triples the volume of his voice just as he's speaking. And all of a sudden it becomes a lot louder to hear. And then this way that the king doesn't have to strain his ears to hear you speaking. You can present yourself to the king in ways that he can understand and hear. You will address him first as your Majesty or Royal Highness, and after that, Sir. You'll not show disrespect or turn your back on him. You'll agree to anything he suggests and accept anything he offers, and if you attempt magic without warning, you'll be executed without trial. Do you understand? We didn't need to make an appointment. We went last anyway because of the information he's getting he's getting the useless and quick things out of the way first, and then it seems like with you he might have something. He's been prepped and primed on what you're here for, and he might be spending some time on you. So he's basically getting the small tasks out of the way and then spending time with the more serious tasks later, because then he can allocate and schedule his time as he goes. Yes, I understand. We have this letter to give him. Will someone take it to him? You can hand it to him indirectly once we get in there. Indirectly? There will be something that takes it from you and hands it to the king. Okay, I think I understand. Very well. If you would head through this door, this is the last chance to explain to us anything that is concealed or magically illusionary on your person. You just shake your head as you walk through a door. As you walk through a door, runes light up, and it seems like it casts a dispel magic on you, in case there is any magic that is changing your appearance or polymorphing you, or anything that is illusionary on your person, disguise self and such. It seems to dispel any of that. Nothing seems to change on your person because you are who you said you claim to be. You'll notice that the door you head through as well is a good 9 to 10 feet tall. It's accommodating of people of all sizes, including Goliaths and such. And as you head into the hall, you enter into the throne room. You've been in temples before, some incredibly lofty and overwhelming, but this is by far the largest, most spectacular room that you've ever stepped into. Immaculate stonework floor tiles, marble columns, walls hidden behind vast tapestries, and light streaming in through a gargantuan stained glass mosaic window, illuminating the vast space. The architecture immediately succeeds on its primary purpose of intimidating you, and its secondary purpose of directing your eye to the most important focal point of the room, the ornate throne and the human man sitting in it. You are led down a red carpet runner in the centre of this room with the footsteps echoing off the walls somewhat. And only when you approach a velvet rope that's about 70 feet from the king do you even notice the most magnificent and terrifying adornment of the entire room. As you enter the space, you see King Damon sitting atop his throne at the other end of the hall, and mounted almost as though it was flying above King Damon, an enormous green dragon. Its wings are aloft and spread, and its mouth is wide in a vicious grin, as if about to swoop down and eat you. It seems like it's mounted right above the mosaic windows that are streaming in, as if it is almost riding this beam of light that is illuminating the room. In the throne, you see a late 40s human man in fine silks, deep purples and reds, wearing a crown of expensive gold, inlaid with gemstones, atop his dark blonde, shoulder-length wavy hair, and he's adorned in jewellery of platinum and mithril around his neck and his fingers, and he eyes you carefully as an advisor man with a large floating notebook in front of him whispers into his ear. To his other side, sitting down in a smaller throne to his left, you see a young boy, maybe mid-teens human man. He listens to his advisor. You approach the ropes here. As you approach these ropes, this is the best I've got for a Maruki stand-in, grizzly bear. As you approach the ropes, the guard to your right just quietly says, "Don't step beyond this rope." And he's very clear about it. You understand? Don't step beyond here. You nod, understand? He says, "You have an amplificator?" And you hold it up, yeah. The king listens to the advisor, looks you out, and then speaks from his own throne. In a similar way, his voice seems amplified, but you quickly learn that he is simply just projecting his voice. He seems like he's got a lot of presence and a lot of understanding and training of how to get his voice to travel the good 70 feet in this stone chamber without it being an issue to him, in the same way that he's had whispering shy peasants who barely find their voice. You could easily speak loud enough for him to hear you, but the amplificators are there to make sure that he doesn't have to constantly go, "What? What do you want? Does he look like he's pasty pale and he's whispering about how we're something grey and unwelcome?" "You are not welcome here, Nifa the Grey." For those who are familiar with the other Twitch Tales campaign, yes, that is Lucifreak. Don't yell into the amplifier. Yes, please don't. He listens to his advisor, and then he speaks to you. "I'm told you are Nifa Maruki of Ronajer, is this correct?" What do you say? You acknowledge as well that he is. You acknowledge as well that he pronounced your name correctly. And race, yes, you picked up on mechanically speaking, 70 foot is out of range of most 30 and 60 foot magic. He is seated 70 feet away from you because most magic takes place within 60 feet. "Yes, Your Highness," you say, with the amplifier to your voice, and you first time you hear your "Yes, Your Highness," and just suddenly boom out, and you're like, "Oh goodness," almost startles you. It says, You're in the kingdom of Serentil per the request of the Artisanal Alliance in honour of fulfilling my task of mapping the Drensal, is that correct?" "Yes, Your Highness." "Well, welcome to the throne room, Nifa Maruki. Please present your reason for requesting audience today." You hold the letter out like, "This is where I need to give him the letter." I bear a letter. Nice. "I bear a letter." He holds it out. You see that the guard off to your left-hand side shifts his hand in a way that makes his gauntlet seem like it comes off of his hand. It reaches out and grabs with a mage hand, takes the letter from you, and starts to lead it directly out in the open in front of everybody so that they can see that there's no shady sleight of hand happening. The letter travels from you up to the stairs. Mage hand can only go about 30 feet usually, and so after about 30 feet the mage hand seems to stop and disappear, and then the letter continues on its journey. You're not exactly sure at this point what's happening at this stage, but the letter is just kind of the little coiled up letter heads all the way up the stairs. It gets to about 10 feet from the king, and then it turns to the left, and it goes past his shoulder, and it goes off to the 16-year-old boy who's sitting in the chair, who takes it. Firstly, it stops in front of him, and he just kind of inspects it. You see it kind of turns in space a little bit, and then he reaches out and takes it. and then he cuts the thing with a letter opener, cuts the seal, unrolls it, and says, while my Grand Arcanist is reading the contents of the letter, perhaps you could summarize it for me. The letter's from Randy, sir, head of Arcanists Guild, that explains some of why I'm here. It's partially to do with a dragon, sir. I understand. I understand that you are claiming to have seen a dragon. No, sir, not myself, sir. I met with some people who had said that they have not seen a dragon. You're here because some people you met said they haven't seen a dragon, and the kid, essentially, the Grand Arcanist, gestures to the king. And the king, even though he's behind him, the king seemingly notices that the Arcanist wants his attention and turns his head towards him. And then there's a silent moment where you can see lips are slightly moving, but you can't hear sound from here. King turns back to you. I see. So a dragon that was seen in the area for many, many years has disappeared from the area, and that's the news that you're delivering. Among other things, sir, yes. At this point, the Arcanist has turned over the piece of paper, and you see his eyes start to glow golden, and there's like a literal light coming out from his eyes, and you see that the light, he holds the paper up to block your view from his face, and you see that the light is actually shining through the paper as well, like it's that bright that he's shining out with these light, and he's holding through it, he's scrolling through it as well. He turns it around and does the same again. You see him grab the wax seal off and sort of crumble a piece. As he scrolls the paper back up again, he sort of waves his hand in a similar way to as seen before. A mage hand comes from him and takes it over, bobs it over to the king, who turns and takes it as well. The Grand Arcanist seems like a teenager. It seems like it, yes. I was told my information about dragons should be forwarded to the king as soon as possible. Yes, you were told correctly. I appreciate that you took the time out of your day to come here. Thank you for your studiousness when it comes to dragons. We can never be too careful. If you wouldn't mind, one moment. And he just takes a second to read through the letter. I see. So the Drensar Swamp proved difficult? Yes, sir. I don't know exactly what's in the letter, but I got attacked by a few things, and I was only there for half a day, and I almost died twice. Plus the people there weren't the most hospitable, so I think it requires a little more. He says, yes, I understand. He scrolls up the paper and he turns to the Grand Arcanist, who again nods and then starts speaking without words. He turns back to you and says, if you wouldn't mind, I request a little patience. Allow me a moment to confer with my Grand Arcanist. He turns to the Grand Arcanist, who holds out a hand and starts to trace a couple of very quick runes in the air. And there's like golden light left behind from his fingers as he's doing so. And then it just explodes out from there. In a very quick flash, it seems to absorb all light around it, and there is a bubble of darkness that's taking up that entire top plinth. Just solid darkness, and all of a sudden, you're just left staring at this bubble of darkness around them. Just kind of look to the guards on either side of you, who are both just standing there solidly. You take this moment to look around the room a little. You can see that there are guards that are facing away from the king. You were told not to turn your back on the king, but these two obviously have had the right to do so, because they are facing away from the king, out to the sides. They're not looking your direction. There are two others on the sides here and here that are facing sort of more inwards direction. There's another one on this side door and another one on the other side door as well. And then there are two that are flanking you, and not wanting to turn your back on the king, you just kind of like turn to look behind yourself while you're still facing your body forwards, and you can see that the double doors that you were led in through have 2 guards on them as well. So there are a lot of guards in this chamber. Is he the real king? Well, I will give you an insight check on the king. And given that you rolled so well on your history check of looking at the different portraits of the previous kings, I will tell you, I'll give you advantage on this because of that prior history check. You noticed a familial resemblance of the name of the kings of House Winchester. So with a 16 or a 19, this wooden dice is rolling super well today. Like, I don't think it's rolled below a friggin' 14 yet. With a 19 plus your history of 6, you get up to a 25, an insight of 6. You get up to a 25, you definitely see before he disappeared into darkness, you definitely see a familial resemblance between the human that's sitting in the chair and all of the portraits that came before. So either he is someone who's pretending to be the king and has disguised himself as the real king, or he is just the real king. Insight check, I'll lead that same 25 across to the boy that's sitting next to him. You get the impression that he's very powerful magic. Obviously, he's in a position called Grand Arcanist to the king. So it could be that he's just inherently very magical, like a sorcerer that's just a prodigy that's been doing 3rd level magic since he was 3 years old. Or he is potentially not what he appears to be. But other than that, with a 25 insight, it's not going to be enough to tell you exactly what's going on. They are definitely working together, so for all you know, one of them, the boy is the actual king and the other one's a front, but the boy and the king don't seem to be related facially. They're very different in appearance. After a moment or two, the darkness dissipates, and he says, "Thank you for your patience. We've decided that the task of mapping the Drensal is a larger undertaking than originally thought. As such, we have to carefully consider the allocations of resources to the task, weighed against any possible benefits, and this will take time. However, we also wish to acknowledge the distance you've travelled to be here for this task, and we are appreciative of how much disruption it may have caused to your life. As such, we wish to reassign you to another task in the meantime. To the north of Wendraven lies a city called Starnhorn, and to the north of Starnhorn lies a farming town called Whitfield. To the north of Whitfield is a largely uncharted area of plains and foothills and potential danger. We would benefit greatly from a more up-to-date survey of that area. In particular, an answer to a question of if the orcs should ever be able to find a way out of the Drenwheel Ranges in the area that we have yet to map sufficiently. As we know it at the moment, the only way for the orcs to get out of the Drenwheel Ranges is through Starnhorn, and Starnhorn is very well protected. However, this recent winter they attacked in great number, and something is clearly unifying them. We want to know if there's any other way for them to get out of the ranges before they become a problem to us. Besides, on the way north, to get to Starnhorn in the first place, your skills would also serve as well to update our map of the Death Plains Trail to Starnhorn. The path leading around Lake Walkarak is considered more dangerous than the path leading over the Lake Walkarak, but it has not been confirmed as dangerous in some time, and we have heard rumours that the Death Plains are less volatile, for some reasons yet unknown in the last few months. My head treasurer, Tiana Fotlin, will speak to the details of you and equip you for the journey. Do you accept? He's technically giving you a choice of do you accept this new path of mapping out the Death Plains Trail, the one that leads through an area of the Death Plains to get to Starnhorn, and then north of Starnhorn to map out the area north of Whitfield. I'd be honoured to take up the task, sir. Of course, sir. Would it be possible to be accompanied by a guard or the like? We will discuss details with Tiana, the head of Treasury, if there is enough in the budget to consider an escort. I'd be happy to undertake the tasks. Thank you, Your Majesty. Thank you for the honour, sir. You're very welcome. And may I say, welcome to Drenwheel. It has been some time since I've seen an Ernavora. You look well. I'm glad that you have made the trip in one piece. Perhaps one time we will get a moment of opportunity for me to ask you about Ronager. I have had little reason to get to Ronager yet, but I would like to visit one day. If you wouldn't mind, and he gestures that last one to the guard that's on your left, who leans forward, takes the velvet rope out from in front of you, and says, "This way." And he is going to lead you. This guard here is going to lead you on the other side of the rope here and off to the left. You, for a moment or two, you're trying to desperately not turn your back on him as you're sort of side shuffling your way along, and the guard says, "It's okay to walk normally." You say, "Thank you. Thank you, sir." And you say half over your shoulder as you leave to the left here. The guard leads you over to this guard here, hands you off, and this guard takes you out into the side door. Not one that you came through, but one off to the left. Not really a choice, though, are we? Not really a choice, no. You said we'd die within a day of entering the Death Plains? Yes, I did. Better not spend a day there, then. Okay, as you are exiting, he let's say that he did specify that he would return notice to Randy on your behalf, so that you don't have to worry about like, oh shit, do we tell Randy about that? You tell that to the guard. You say, will he tell Randy that I'm not coming back? He says, I'll make sure that the king knows to inform the gentleman of your new duties. Thank you, sir. He takes you into a side chamber where you are to wait for the treasurer. As you wait for the new treasurer to arrive, it's not too long, maybe about 20 minutes to half an hour of waiting in this much smaller room. It's much more like a cozy sort of reading room. There's a couple of clawed armchairs and a small table, more like a coffee table sort of a thing, fireplace and a few writing desks and things. You're waiting in one of these armchairs for 20 minutes patiently before the door opens and a human woman walks in. She's probably about 5'7", beautiful dark skin and hair that's pulled back into a ponytail. She's dressed very nicely, but not ostentatiously. She doesn't dress like a noble woman going to a banquet. She just dresses in finery that's probably quite expensive and well maintained. She enters in and says, where is she? Says, I didn't give her a voice. What would Fiona sound like? Tiana Fotlin. I think she has let's see, where's she from? I think it's more Manchester sort of sounding. She goes, we're Flower. Alright, Flower? Alright, how do I do Manchester? Up north, but like in a bouncy way. Bouncy, hello, Bouncy Flower. That's kind of how I get into Manchester. And she says, but she's well spoken because she works with the king. So she walks in and she says, hello there. No need to stand up. I'm Tiana Fotlin. I'm the head treasurer here at the Winchester Castle. I've been debriefed on what your journey is going to be, and I'm here to talk through the details with you and equip you for the journey. So, if you wouldn't mind, and she places a little folder on the table in front of you and opens up the papers. And she says, so here's basically the task as is written. There are two contracts that the king wants from you, essentially. This one's first, and it's the simplest one. He wants you to head north of Holdover. Do you know the area too much? And you say, not really, eh? She goes, well, I've got a map here as well, and she pulls out a small map of the area. And I will go to a browser share and show you the map of the area. She says, So right about here, this is where we're at the moment. This is Wendraven, the capital. And what you're going to do is you're going to head north on this path here, and you're going to head through a small thoroughfare called Holdover. Lovely little town, but you don't really need to spend much time there. We've mapped this area very nicely by now. If you head north of Holdover, you're heading towards Starnhon. Starnhon's a dwarvish city. Lots of dwarves, lots of humans. Lovely mining town, lots of people there. And you see, once you start climbing Mount Walkerak, that's the name of this mountain here, you're heading towards the summit, which is Lake Walkerak. At a certain point you'll see a signpost that takes you into a sort of a fork in the road. You can, as most people do, head north, up and up further around the mountain. You go right up to the caldera, the lake of the rim of the lake, and that takes you up and over the top and down to Steinhorn. However, it's a very difficult path for carriages and such, and as such it slows down all sorts of transport and economy and trade between Steinhorn and Windhaven. So there's another path that leads a much more gradual descent that goes around the mountain, like you can see that's marked on this map here. The problem with that is it crests through the very tip of what's known as the Death Plains, and for good reason. They're very dangerous plains. I won't get into the history of them now, but they're very dangerous. They're very hot. It's a very hot, dry, warm climate, and sometimes there's fire elementals and all sorts of things like that. So we just need you to, on the way, the first contract would be to map out this section of the Death Plains and see if it's still actually as dangerous as they said. So that's the first thing, and there's danger fees built into the price that we'll be paying you for this. And then this second contract here, and she moves the map up a little bit, gets out some more paperwork. You see this one here? This one sets you off a little bit further north, Flower. So this one goes up to a town called Whitfield, lovely little hobbit village. It's where a lot of the farming of Drenwheel comes from. And then north of Whitfield, normally people would head west and go to a human town called Lake Town, lovely little place. You know that she's saying every place is a lovely little place. A little bit north of that, you see that this part is a little underdeveloped in terms of its mapping. It's where we've got the lesser Death Plains, much the same as the greater Death Plains, but just smaller. And then north of that's a forest that we've never really gotten to. It's very difficult for the king to get any men out there, and very expensive too. So we just want you to sort of map this general area. Maybe if you can survive it, head into the Death Plains a little bit, give us some more of information of what's going on there. And in particular, it says here, look, it's a bit wordy, but the contract's basically saying that if you can find any information on the orcs of the Drenwheel Rangers, and any areas that we might want to block up to make sure the orcs don't come down and cause havoc to Whitfield or nothing, if you can find anything around there that's a problem, then you can tell us that as well, and there's an extra bonus in it if you can do so. Lake Town's where's the lake? It's this one. It's a very long lake. A little bit Jim Bowen, yeah. Glancing over if you survive it, yeah. Do you have any advice on how to survive a place called the Death Plains by chance? Well, yeah, that's another thing that I'm here for. You see, I've been tasked with of outfitting you for the journey. She brings out a small box, kind of looks like a jewelry box, and she goes, and then opens up the thing. Inside, you can see that there are a few potions in there, and there's a couple other things that looks kind of like something wrapped in cloth. She goes, well, let's get the pay out of the way first, shall we? And she brings out of that same box a small coin purse. She says, you'll be paid 20 gold pieces up front, and then there's another 80 gold pieces on completion. That's for the Whitfield job here. If you can find there's a 200 gold piece bonus if you can answer any questions that lead us to information on dealing with the orcs of the Drenwheel Rangers. And then you can see that for the other job here, this is a 10 gold piece up front and another 40 on completion, which you can claim from the treasurer of our department in Steinhorn. From the mayor, Mayor Callie will... Callie? I think her name's Mayor Callie. Can't remember, it's been a while since I used Steinhorn NPCs. The mayor in Steinhorn will be able to fix up the rest of that if you arrive with a good map in tow. So basically it's 100 gold pieces to map out the north of Whitfield, it's 50 gold pieces to get to Steinhorn, and you get 20% up front of each one. Just to confirm, we're mapping from Steinhorn to Lake Town? No, from Steinhorn to Whitfield, they've got that mapped properly. From Whitfield to Lake Town, they've also got that mapped. They want you to basically go... trying to move the wrong map here. They basically want you to go north of Whitfield, so this area that's not mapped. Map out the Lesser Death Plains and this area that's north of Whitfield, and particularly this section of the Drenwheel Ranges as well. So they want you to focus on mapping this area. So you explain that through. She hands over the amount up front, which is 30 gold pieces for the task. So I'll just pop that into your thing now. 30 goes from 12 to 42 gold pieces. with the rest on completion. She then starts to go through the other things in the box. She says, so here's a, I'm sure you're well familiar with the different potions of healing, aren't you? And she brings out a potion that's a very light rosy colour. And she goes, this is a potion of light healing. It's just for dealing with some sort of minor wounds. This one's a potion of what do I call them in my games? I was going to say mediocre healing. That's not what they're called. Light... general healing? Can't remember what I call them. The next stage up. She gives you the first 3 healing potions. Light, greater, light, moderate, that's the word. I knew it began with an M. She brings out 3 different potions. They're basically the same design of bottle, the same amount of liquid, but each one is slightly darker in its shade of red. It starts at a very light pinkish rosy colour for the light one, and then a moderate one, and then a greater healing. So she gives you a potion of light, moderate, and greater healing. She brings out another potion, and she says, this one should help you get through the tip of the death plains nice and easy. This is a potion of fire resistance. And then just as a backup, we've got another one. So you've got 2 potions of fire resistance. And she says each one should last about an hour, depending on how quick your metabolism is and such. If you're a quick burner, you might start to feel a little bit hot towards the end of that hour. You can take the other one as well. If you don't need to take them, and we would appreciate any of these items that are not used up, they get given to our representative in Sternhon, if you wouldn't mind. And then finally, we've got these ones here. And she brings out what looks like sort of a white, something wrapped in a white cloth. And she brings it out and starts to unfold it. And you're wondering what's wrapped in this white cloth, and it just unfolds and unfolds into like almost like a bandage, and then eventually there's just nothing in it, and you think, oh, you were expecting a ring or something. She goes, these are we understand that you like to fight with your hands. I was told, is that correct? And you say, I'm pretty good at hand-to-hand combat. Yeah. She goes, excellent. Well, these might help you out, you see. And she hands over one of them. There's 2 of them now separate as she finally unwraps them. She hands over one of them into one hand, and she asks you for your hand. Would you mind giving me your hand, love? And you hand out your right hand, and she starts to wrap it around your hand, and you realise, oh, they're hand wraps, they're monk wraps. And as she's wrapping them, she goes, you don't have to wear them now, I'm just letting you know how they're applied. As she's talking, she goes, so these ones have been woven with particular magics that take the essence of certain, shall we say, stronger characters. Actually, incidentally, as far as I understand it, these have been taken from orc blood to begin with. I don't know enough about it. That's really more Hunter's job. But Hunter has told me that they're enchanted with orc blood, and they give you the strength of an orc. And as she finishes wrapping them up at this point and slips the little loop over your thumb to sort of hold it in place, you realise that your hand is feeling stronger. And it kind of like tenses down your arm. You feel a little muscular sort of growth down that arm. And she says, once we wrap on the other one as well, they're a chargeable thing, you see. You basically have to induce it. She wraps your other arm in it as well. And at the end of that, you feel stronger. She goes, should last for about 10 minutes upon first application, and then there's enough inherent charge in them, as it were, to do it for up to about an hour a day in 10-minute intervals. So, mechanically speaking, what she's giving you are enchanted hand wraps of orc strength. For 10 minutes at a time, you can expend one of the 6 charges in the wraps to give yourself orc strength, which means 16 strength in your strength score. So you can give yourself a strength score of 16 for 10 minutes at a time, 6 times a day. And then at the end of the day, at the next dawn, it will recharge a little bit. A certain amount of those charges will come back the next day. Oh, wow, this is something, eh? You've got 16 strength all of a sudden up from your 8 normally. Like, oh, wow. You're picking stuff up, being like, oh, this is... going to get used to how light things feel when I pick them up, eh? Yeah, I guess so. Is there anything else you needed? Yeah, we were going to ask about a guard, if there's any sort of accompaniment. And she says, oh, I'm afraid not, love. In the budget of getting there, we're already sort of stretched. And she pats the top of the box that she gave you all the stuff in. She says, we're already a little bit strained with the stuff that we've given you here. But You're welcome to hire a guard out of your own pay. That's part of the reason for the hazard pay is for expectation that you might want to hire mercenaries to go with you. That's really on you to do. There are mercenaries around town, and especially in Holdover as you pass through. If you want to go to the mercenaries guild there, then I'm sure there'll be somebody that would be willing to take your job if you really want to put your pay towards that. But I also, to be honest, love, I shouldn't worry too much. Usually the path that far north towards Walkerak, it's not the most dangerous place. You really want to be worried about down here. Look, and she gestures down. She says, "You see, you see this mountain here. Word has it that there's a red dragon lives there. And then further up, there's maybe even remnants of the fire giants that live around here. There's roaming bands of dragonborn and tieflings and things. I've heard that down in the crevasse here in the canyon area, there's all sorts of like salamanders and things live in the water. But up north of the crevasse, there's not a lot of dangers. You're starting to get a little bit into the cooler territory. It's still a dangerous path, of course, but I shouldn't worry. I think someone of your abilities should be able to manage. But really, if you want to get any help, hired help, that's on your decision to make. Is there any other questions you've got for me? Just start picking stuff up and putting it down to test our new strings. Let's be sure. Is there any groups or mercenaries that you'd recommend for anyone? Oh, I mean, there's lots of people, but I'm afraid a lot of them are busy with other things, to be honest. There's the King's got a lot of stuff going on at the moment. There's a lot of things in the world that are pressing, and really, you're going to be a little hard pushed to find an adventurer that's not already on a quest of some sort. Is the red dragon of this mountain here new, like a few months old? No, ancient red dragon. It's been living there many years apparently. Well, maybe not ancient. I don't know a terrible lot about dragons. This is more my sort of thing. And she pats the box of money again. Rob's basically telling us we don't need one. Rob's telling us that I've just given you potions, fire resistance, and doubled your strength score, and you're going through an area of the Death Plains that isn't the most dangerous area, and this is a solo campaign, and we don't want to be bogging you down with NPC characters that the DM is controlling. You can hire a guard if you want to. You do not have to. Sorry, you mentioned Hunter helped with the reps. Who's Hunter? Oh, Hunter's the Grand Arcanist. What is his actual name? I can't remember. Control find Hunter. Not the Hunter. Different Hunter. Hunter Milton. There's Hunter Milton, the Grand Arcanist. Works for the King. The young boy. Yes, the young boy. Yeah, he was in the meeting then, I suppose. Yeah, he was, I think. Right. She just sort of chuckles to herself and leaves it at that. Can your dragons shapeshift in your world? Yep. Yes, they can. Hunter may quite end up being a husband. I quite like him. What, the 16-year-old boy? Oh, I may have misspoken. He's not young. He's not as young as he looks. Let's put it that way. Hunter's been around a long time. Nicodemus. Right. Thank you. Well, if there's no other questions, then I think you're good to go. Do you want to have a read through the contract before you sign them? You're welcome to take your time with it. Hunter Milton, I will tell you, is basically a very old man who, through magical experiments throughout his life, has made himself look like he's 16. Partly because he was researching youth potions and things. He was trying to research longevity and aging in general. And things went wrong and things kind of worked way better than he was expecting them to. And now he is trapped looking like he's 16. He's looked like he's 16 for about 5 years now. And he is one of the earliest NPCs that I ever made for my world. And that's the first time anybody's even heard of him, let alone met him. I think they might have heard of him in Team OK campaign a few years ago. I'll tell you, no, he's not the Hunter. I did find it funny that Hunter Milton was what I called him like years and years and years ago, and then the Hunter was completely coincidence. And then when I was preparing for you meeting the king, I was like, oh, Hunter Milton would be in the chat, and that's going to be very funny if they find out that his name's Hunter, because that's going to cause some interest. And then, yeah, it's a red herring, I'll tell you that. Could I ask how long the whole trip should take? She says, well, it depends if you're walking or whether you're hiring cart and that, but if you're heading north from Windhaven to Holdover, it's less than a day of walk, really. If you set off nice and early, you get there plenty before nightfall. From Holdover to Starnhorn can take the best part of a day. You probably want to set off just before dawn in order to make it to Starnhorn, especially if you're going through the Greater Death Plain, if you're going through the tip of the Greater Death Plains, it can be an added journey to you. So I'd suggest maybe you even want to set up camp early on this side of the Death Plains here, and then head off the next day. It's really up to you. And then from Starnhorn to Whitfield, only a few hours of walk, really. And then from there north, as long as it takes you, really. There's, as you'll see in the contract, it says that you're expected to check in at least once a week back at Whitfield or Starnhorn. But other than that, it's really down to you how long it takes. Are there any locations Your Highness might pay extra to get mapped out in greater detail? Well, I mean, if you do a good enough job of this one, 2 contracts aren't enough for you, love. No, if you just get a good enough job done of these, then the king likes to keep those who look after him. He looks after them, if you know what I mean. Right, thank you very much. And she goes, I'll leave you to read the contracts. I'll be back in about 20 minutes to check on you. She leaves the room, leaves you with the box with the potions and the hand wraps, and then you read through the contract. I'm going to give you an investigation check. She said come back in 20 minutes, so I'll just allow you to take 20 on it. You take 20 on this with an investigation of +1. If we head back to the character sheet, you can see your investigation is a +1. With a 21 is the best you can possibly do with the contract. You don't see anything in here that's like obviously trying to trap you or trick you or anything like that. It seems fairly straightforward to outline exactly what you've been asked to do, with the amount of remuneration for it, and like 20% up front and the rest on completion. It explains where to go in Starnhorn to collect the rest of the money for the initial part of it, the Death Plains part of it, and then the rest of the money is meant to be collected from the king once you've mapped out the area north of Whitfield. There's nothing in the contract that catches you as suspicious, so you go ahead and sign it. And she comes back in a few minutes after that to collect it from you and see you out of the castle, see you out of the palace. What I'm hearing is, if we help the king, no need to longer have trees to scratch our back. Nice. You scratch my back, the king will scratch yours on a tree. With the Death Plains being hot and having dark vision, maybe we should travel through them at night. Well thought, Calamaya. That is one reason why the other party that went through the Death Plains actually was able to survive it, because they made the smart decision early on to travel at night, when it is less hot. There are different dangers that come out at night, of course, but you're not dealing with the hot weather as much when you're traveling at night. Okay, so anything else you guys want from the King's Treasurer before you set off on your journey north and potentially into the Death Plains that I have been hinting at since episode 1 and freaking everybody out when they're like, oh, I kind of want to visit them, but I also don't want to die? Well, the King has specifically contracted you to travel through them now, so good luck getting around visiting and dying. Getting copies of the maps and contracts? Yes, you got given a copy of the map and the contract, so you know where you are at any one particular time. Do you know what and why and where we're mapping specifically? You do know rough details in the contract of like what he wants mapping. The first part is specifically just the path through the Greater Death Plains to and from Starnhorn, to see if it's safe enough or can be made safe enough for travel, like wagon cart travel and things, and people with mobility issues and stuff to travel on a slightly easier path. That's the first contract. The second contract is more vague. It's just kind of like map the area north of Whitfield and see what there is there, and like if you can find out anything to do with the orcs coming out of the mountains, then you get extra pay. Grumbles in not anti-monarchy. All right. So you thank the lady, Tiana Fotland. She wishes you well, and you head back to you get accepted by a guard on the outside of the door, who was kind of like stationed to make sure you didn't leave and start wandering the palace. And he takes you down to the antechamber that you went into before meeting the king. You get given all of your weapons and belongings and magic items and anything else you got stripped of. You get all of that back, and then you are led out of the palace. As you're heading out of the palace, you are led out of the royal precinct and into the military precinct, and you look out over the smog that is now pouring out of the blacksmiths and the weaponsmiths. You look north of that, past the city walls, and in the distance, you see the extinct, or at least dormant, volcano, Mount Walkerak. And you know that heading out that direction is your goal, as you need to head into a place that is affectionately called the Death Plains. And that is where we're going to pick up after the break. Thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you in episode 8. Bye.
All hail the algorithm gods. Comment, like, and subscribe. Ooh, ah.